What is going down, dudes? Happy weekend to all of you. We are back. Welcome to the Zero Driver Development Program. Uh, as soon as I load this save, we're going to go straight into the race. So I'm doing my preamble ramble right now. Um, Last time out, we qualified spectacular, one of those words. For really good. We qualified really, really strongly. That leads me to believe that either our race pace is going to be generally off, or the inexperience of the drivers is going to show through, and maybe they can deliver over one lap, but in race conditions, I would not be surprised to see us get a double DNF. On paper, we don't have, in my opinion, the fastest car out there. Certainly not in race distance terms, so I would be pleasantly surprised, but very, very surprised to find us on the podium at the end of this. That's not to say we should be disheartened. I've never really done well on qualifying pace in this game historically. I've always sort of pulled the performance out where it matters, which is where the points are, and as Brucey has told us all, points do indeed make prizes. So, the aim is to try and get some points on the board, but not to be too disheartened if we get a double DNF. Should that happen, should a double DNF situation arise, as it were, the video will cut short. I will skip to the end of the race, simply because it takes up a huge amount of drive space recording this on Fraps, because it's the only thing that will record it, and the races are super long, like for serious long, and it's Saturday. I've already done a video, so I'm trying to sort of meet you guys halfway. You did express that you wanted to see me do the driver development program as a full, serious, hardcore playthrough, and I want to do my best to accommodate that. But a little bit of give and take there. If both cars are out of the race, I don't really see much point in me commentating over the rest, because we're coming at this from the standpoint of our own drivers and our own development. With that said, let's hit the action button and make action happen in a moment. So here we are. I'm gonna have Fellows push. Actually, I'm gonna have Moriera try and hold position. Usually that results in some kind of accident. Moriera's already down to 14th and has he had a failure at the start, so that's good to know. Fellows is already down to second, behind one of the Benettons there. It's kind of hard to keep track of. Yeah, I don't know what to do about Moriera. He's not got damage, he's just a buffoon. He's just mucked it up. I'm also going to stop Fellows from pushing now. He's got away safely. The main thing is not to lose too much time. You can see already that the Benetton's pulling out a gap in front of us, but again, we can't expect miracles this early on. Moriera's just gained a place actually for 13th. That's a good start. I believe he leapfrogged one of the Saubers there. We'll have a better idea of what's going on once they complete this first lap, and they're coming around to do that now. Disappointed in Moriera, although to be fair, he's fighting back. He's just up to 11th now, and it's a marathon, not a sprint. It seems Fellows as well is kind of keeping pace with the Benetton, David Coulthard's Benetton, that is. But he is pulling out a gap ahead of Mika Häkkinen's Williams, so again, not going to be too critical about the guy at this point. In comes Moriera for a 10-second penalty. That's going to mess us up a little bit, but there's not really anything we can do about it, and he pulls away now. So let's take a look where we stand halfway through lap 2. David Coulthard leads in front of John Fellows in Jordan. Mika Häkkinen third for Williams. Johnny Herbert and John Lacey in the Ferraris are nose to tail in 4th and 5th, and Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Arrows takes 6th at the moment. Moriera's going to have a bit of clear air now. I'm not going to get him to push because he'll be organically faster anyway, and it does mean he burns through his fuel quicker, so we have to be very, very aware of that. I'm looking at the diagram, I'm trying to wait to get a view of this on screen. Let's switch to Fellows for a moment. It looks to me like, yes, yeah, he's just made the overtake. What a boss. I mean, for a debut, you can't really say fairer than that, can you? The guy took pole, and he is fighting fairly convincingly for first. I'm not having to tell him to push. He's overtaken Coulthard there on merit, which is phenomenal balls. Let's make no mistake. I don't think Moriera is going to do a great deal now. The main thing is he needs to catch up to the back of the Minardis fairly promptly. No excuse for not doing so, really, given the amount of clear air ahead of him and the fact that this happened to him so early in the race. Coulthard's just fought back there against Fellows. It was a clean overtake over the inside. I suspect Johnny Boy will come back at him, probably on the next round. I mean, I don't mind. It gives me something to talk about at least. The game does tend to... Oh, accident there for one of the arrows. Who was that? No flag came out, but I definitely saw someone spin or at least, kick the rear end out there. Let's see what's changed. Johnny Lacey has beaten Mika Hakkinen to the line this time round to take third in his Ferrari. Still Coulthard leading ahead of Fellows. Hakkinen fourth, Johnny Herbert fifth, and Jarno Trulli sixth. Let's take a look how the lap times are breaking down, because that gap that Fellows has pulled out still remains despite the infighting between the two. Let's take a look here. So, Fellows at last check was 4/10 of a second behind David Coulthard and 1.8 seconds down the road from Jean Alesi. That's good news. See how the lap times are. It's a good lap from Moriera on lap 3 actually, a 1:21.728. I don't know if anybody else is in the 1:21s yet, but Fellows is running at the front and he's only put in a 1:22.081 to date. Tyres are in a good operating window for Moriera and not so much for Johnny Boy. I guess that's because he's following in the disrupted air. Although it normally overheats your tyres, so I'm not entirely sure why that's happening. 22 cars still run at the moment. There is no rubber down on the racing line as yet. 31 degrees air temperature. That's seemingly working okay for us. I don't know how the engine will be over long distance at this kind of temperature, but we're not getting the guys to push. We're not adding to any mechanical problems that were inherent to the car. We have 21 laps of fuel left for Johnny Boy and 21 laps of fuel left for Moriera, who sort of clawed himself a lap back by taking that very leisurely 10-second stop there, and he must have eased off at some point. He's now on the back of the Minardi, so he's got back within 2 laps. That's pretty decent. The main thing is now getting past them as far as is possible. I think points are off the board for him, simply because we're on the old retro system here, where it's points mean prizes only for the first 6 cars to cross the line. Mika Hakkinen is back on the tail of Fellows there, I see. I don't know when that happened, but obviously Jean Alesi went off the boil a little bit. Fellows has now broken into the 1:21s. Moriera's consistently been in the 1:21s for the last 3 laps, so the track is definitely getting faster because it's consistent between both cars. Let's see. Yeah, it looks like we might be falling ever so slightly back into the clutches of Mika Hakkinen. Coulthard's extended his lead to a full second now, with Hakkinen 1.3 seconds behind, so he's gained half a second on us. That could have been a mistake on Fellows' part, to be honest, given that it's a consistent shift of half a second further back from Coulthard and closer to Mika Hakkinen. Hakkinen has now got the gap down to 8/10 of a second pretty much, and Coulthard is now 1.8 seconds down the road from Fellows. Moriera's up to 17th, that is good. No overtaking now because of a yellow flag condition. Let's see who that was. It's one of the Prosts there. Okay, so we've now lost Jan Magnussen just now, and apparently both Tyrrells, Fisichella and Collard in lap 5. I thought we were doing well. To be honest, I was surprised. First race of the season. One of the Arrows has just pulled over as well, actually. Yeah, Riccardo Rossi, engine failure on the Arrows. That's a bad day for him. Particularly because Arrows are running quite strongly, to be honest. Second season of 10th and 11th, that's not too shabby. See how things are going. Fellows is down to 3rd now. Mika Hakkinen got past him, deservedly so. I think, again, that's pretty much coming down to the inexperience of the drivers. I kind of expected that our race pace would suffer a little bit. The main thing is I've been quite impressed with Fellows during these first 7 laps. I think he's held himself together quite well. He was fighting out for first position. Also, his tyres are not in the optimal window. I don't know if that's down to his setup or if that's down to his driving style or whatever, but yeah, his tyres are actually getting worse. His tyres are cooling, which is not good at all. Although Moriera seems to be getting the best out of his tyres. I think they're both on the same compound. Moriera's tyres have had a bit more taken out of them, unfortunately, but they are in the right operating window, which is good. The main thing is I'm worried about how we're going to get temperature in Fellows' tyres. I'm going to tell him to put his boot down a little bit. I don't know if that's going to have a huge impact over a short distance because it's going to mess with his pit stop as well. If we burn his fuel off, he has clawed back an extra lap actually looking at it, but still I kind of don't want to have to mess with the pit strategy too much because it's a problem that becomes a compound problem. You end up panicking and finding yourself having to dive into all the menus while the race is still ongoing. You don't pause the race at that point. And if a guy sort of drives around an extra lap before you call him in, you can run out of fuel on track, and that is super embarrassing. Where are we now? So, Moriera got past both the Stewarts now. Pretty solid performance from him on the comeback trail. The Saubers are next up. They seem to be running on a little world of their own there. Not necessarily surprising. The main thing is they're ahead of the Stewarts, which is a big performance marker for them, I reckon, this season. Moriera's still keeping his tyres nice and comfortable. That's excellent. How are the lap times looking? Last time out, John Fellows 121.702. He had 2 laps there in the mid to low 122s. Bad lap from Moriera on lap 6, so that might have been traffic related. But he's had 2 laps as well outside the 121s, although he's back to a sort of consistent beat of 121.7. Which I'm ashamed to say, well, not ashamed, but it's unfortunate that Fellows hasn't had the same signs of consistency. Consistency is really key in this sport, and the ability to kind of be like a metronome and just put out lap after lap after lap after lap within the same sort of window. That's how you keep your tyre temperatures good without taking too much life out of them. That kind of shows that you're a mature driver who can get the best out of the package that's provided to them. And so far, Moriera looks better on that front than Fellows, though on outright performance, Fellows takes home the gold right now. I'd settle for third, to be perfectly frank. I'm going to tell Fellows to ease off now. He's still got an extra lap of fuel, but I don't want to tempt fate by trying to burn that off. And it's not made any difference as yet to his tyre temperature. I don't even know if his tyre temperature is on the increase because that was never implemented as part of the interface. We now sit on lap 10 of 72, so a seventh and, well, under a seventh of the way there. And I'm not entirely sure the gap to the Saubers is really closing, to be honest. Let's monitor this. So he's 6.4 seconds down the road at the end of the last lap from the back of Esteban Tuero's Sauber. Pedro Diniz is about 4 seconds up the road from his partner in crime there. Let's just see what happens when Moriera crosses the line this time. See if we can see some kind of trend as to whether he's closing the gap. The diagram can be a little bit misleading, to be honest. It looks to me as well, actually, that Fellows is going to be caught by the Ferraris if he's not careful. Having to put down an order to sort of push consistently just invites an accident, but when he's not pushing, it seems that he kind of falls back a bit. Not surprising, really, given the caliber of drivers he's surrounded by. Let's see where Moriera is now. He's taken 3/10 out of Tuero, but Tuero does seem to be falling back. I mean, the numbers don't suggest it, but the diagram does. The diagram is so misleading at times, you know. He is also pulling out a bigger gap to the Stewarts, so he's going in the right direction. Let's see here with Fellows. So David Coulthard still takes first position right now. He's 6.6 0.7 seconds basically up the road from Fellows. Mika Hakkinen is between the two, 3.7 seconds ahead of Fellows. And it's a 3-second gap back to Alesi. The main thing is that that doesn't shrink, which it just did, 2.8 seconds. Hakkinen's now 4.5 seconds. Yeah, it seems we're going off the boil here. It also looks like the weather's going to change, to be honest. I wouldn't be surprised at all to see it raining. Still little consistency from Fellows. He's been in the 121's last 4 laps, though. That's more encouraging. Getting very worried about Moriere's tyres now, to the point that I might actually bring him in before too long. The last thing I need is him going off. And also, when his tyres get into such shoddy condition, I really don't know what we're supposed to do. Let's see what his strategy is right now. Right, he's got 13 laps of fuel left at this point. I don't think bringing him in lap 24 is going to be smart. So we will bring him in. We'll bring him in for an early stop, lap 14, and put extra fuel on. Let me do the maths here. That's 55 laps of fuel from 2 stops, plus 13 remain. But he's already done 12. This is where it gets difficult. So he's basically got 1 lap on board. At this point, he has to... See, this is why it gets difficult. This is why you don't mess with your pit strategy partway through the race. He comes in on 14. That leaves 58 laps to go, so he needs another 3. Let's see if that works for us. Let's see if that works. It means he's going to have a very heavy and slow middle stint. Let me also check that he's going to have the right tyres on. Yes, he is. Taking a look at Johnny Boy's pit strategy. His tyres are getting a bit of a kicking now, to be honest. But nowhere near on the level of Moriere. I think his pit strategy is pretty okay. Rain is going to mess it up quite badly. But it seems Moriere is no longer going to be gaining on the Saubers. His tyres have just lost too much life. And, you know, he would go backwards if we were simulating this race, because the AI would stick to the strategy as far as is possible. So we would find ourselves slipping back into the clutches of the Stewarts, or staying where we are, to be honest. Bringing him in early gives us a chance to undercut the Saubers, first of all. He might even still get out ahead of the Stewarts at this point, which would be phenomenal. His tyres are outside the optimal operating window right now, but he does seem to have the ability to get them back in there. We are running him heavy. That much we do know. He's running far too heavy, but I'd rather have the ability for him to sort of burn off a little bit of excess. So I'm going to get him to put his foot down, get some heat in the tyres at this point. Make sure he keeps that Stewart behind him, because the Stewart got a very good run on him actually in that straight. I'm surprised we managed to bring him out in front. Tells me though that we brought him in at exactly the right time. If we'd waited, then he would be probably sandwiched between the Stewarts or behind them. If we'd waited even an extra lap at that stage, I think. I think Fellows is about where he's going to finish, pending any stupid mistakes. So really, our focus is going to be on Moriere at this point. Yeah, Fellows is still 3.3 seconds clear of Jean Alesi, so he's kind of keeping pace with things. No further retirements as it stands on lap 15 of 72. Let's see. So the best pit stop, there's only been one, was 9 seconds for us. That's because we put a lot of fuel on board. And I think my maths is bad, and it's all going to be in the comments embarrassing me, but I think that's actually the case. I think I've way overfueled him, but I could be wrong. I'm going to tell him to ease off the pushing again. Now he's built up a little bit of a cushion ahead of that Stewart. The main thing is I need to appreciate that they are very inexperienced drivers, and by getting them to just push, you're not necessarily going to get a better result, and you might find yourself with a DNF, which nobody wants. For instance, in the pits right now, looks to me as if, yeah, he got a much faster stop than we managed, even though we've got a full 5-star pit crew right now. So good stop from the boys at Arrows there. I mean, that's basically, he's behind us. That's basically gained him 1.6 seconds for nothing. People often forget how important pit stops actually turn out to be. Timing of them is vital, but also the actual length of time of the stop. Fellows has slipped into the 122s. That tells me his tyres are due for a switcheroo, and I'm thinking of messing with his pit strategy now as well. We just started lap 17. I'm going to bring him in 5 laps early and extend his run. I think I've probably got that wrong, but we're monitoring the race live, so it's fine. I can bring him in for an unplanned stop if I need to. I've got 3 laps to figure this out. He's got 9 laps on board, 17 are complete, so that means he's 25 laps of fuel, 52 laps of fuel. Yeah, he's massively overfueled. But actually, that means I can get him to push to get heat in the tyres. Yeah, I'm going to leave it. I don't normally run my cars heavy, but here I think there might actually be an advantage to be gained. Let's check on Moriero's tyre temperatures, see if he's getting it back on a rhythm. Not just yet, but again, it takes quite a few laps before things are right. I don't know if maybe the track ambient temperature has changed at all. Let's see. No, everything's as it was before, so maybe as the tyre wears through, it begins to retain heat a little bit better. Main thing is I think we've made the right call bringing the boys in a little bit earlier than initially planned. Alesi is also pitted at this point, which means he could potentially undercut us if we don't get a great stop for Fellows. In fact, he probably will undercut us because we've got 2 more laps to run on tyres that are not exactly shredded, but they're not exactly top-notch quality either. And it's certain that, yeah, Fellows has lost 3 tenths. He put in a good lap on lap 19, so I don't know if it necessarily is just tyres that are causing this problem, but almost certainly something isn't right. He dropped into the 22s for 4 consecutive laps there. Bit of a disco going on. See if I can stop that from happening. Moriero's been very much on his own all the way through this, but he's still in the same position he was when we brought him in. And he has managed to basically, it's kind of hard to explain actually, harder than it should be, but basically what he's done is fight his way back up half the grid and give himself a free pit stop in the process while maintaining a metronome-like consistency in his lap times. There's been like 1 or 2 little peaks, but in general, if he's not stopping or for a penalty, I mean, he also had a penalty, let's not forget. I actually think he's the star of the show for us right now in terms of actual driver performance. It will be Fellows that brings home the points, potentially. Let's see where we bring him out now. Nowhere good, I think. Oh no, he is actually still ahead of Alesi. That is a surprise. That is very much a surprise. So we're now sandwiched between Heinz-Harald Frenzen's Arrows and Jean Alesi's Ferrari. That means Frenzen's pit stop was even more important than we first realised because he's now sat 7th and doesn't need to stop again until probably 20-25 laps from now. Shinji Nakano is 3rd for McLaren. I don't know if he stopped, but I know his teammate Eddie Irvine has stopped and he's right up his jacksie. So we've got at least 2 cars ahead of us that have already stopped. The leaders, though, have not stopped as yet. So that means, in theory, we should by having stopped early, undercut Johnny Newhouse, Shinji Nakano. Hard to say about Hakkinen and Coulthard, but I'm pretty sure we shouldn't have to worry too much about Newhouse and Herbert at this point. Again, very hard to know what kind of strategy they're on. They could be on the hard compound tyre at this point. Interesting to note that Johnny Boy is also wearing his car out. I don't think we're necessarily going to see a failure, but then again, yeah, he's lost 4 bars in 20 laps. It's possible. It's possible the car could have a reliability issue. Moriera is in the same position, but his box is only just delighted, if that's a word. Not delighted as in happy, but delighted. You know what I meant. I'm fairly sure that isn't what we want to have happen, but it's happening anyway. Let's take a look at the standings real quick, and then we'll go over the gaps some more, and then I will pause the video and we'll pick up when something begins to happen. Although Johnny Boy is in a bit of a scrap with Pedro Diniz, who's somehow got ahead of Alesi. Man, things are crazy. Eddie Irvine's behind us as well. This makes no sense to me. How has Fellows got from 8th to 5th? I mean, I'm not complaining, but hell of a drive. I'm going to get him to push some more because I don't like having that Sauber right on our tail. In the meantime, we are on lap 22 of 72, 50 laps left to run. David Coulthard continues to lead for Benetton. Mika Hakkinen in second for Williams on a 1:28.26. Shinji Nakano for McLaren, his best lap time was a 1:28.52 on lap 21. Eddie Irvine is fourth apparently, but we know that he's not. Let's wait for Fellows to cross the line, see what is what. Ah, I'm an idiot. I'm reading the fastest lap board. What a clown. There we go. David Coulthard still leads, Mika Hakkinen second, Shinji Nakano is third, but yet to stop, I believe. Jarno Trulli also needs to stop in the Williams, currently fourth. Johnny Fellows sits in fifth on what is proven to be a pretty stellar debut from him. Eddie Irvine sixth, Jean Alesi seventh, Esteban Tuero eighth in the Sauber, Johnny Newhouse ninth for Benetton, and in 10th position is Peders for Sauber. Moriera continues to sit in 13th. I'm a little bit worried that he's not catching anybody at this point. Let me take a look at his... Yeah, he's 27.6 seconds ahead of Rubens Barrichello Stewart, but he's also 24.24 seconds behind Heinz-Harald Frenzen's Arrows. It seems Frenzen stopped twice already. That's very unusual. Let's see the pit stop count. No, he has not. And in fact, most of the grid has not stopped yet, which is a surprise. Not most, I'm sorry, I'm an idiot, but a significant minority have yet to stop. They must be running either hard compound tyres or a very ballsy strategy indeed. Fifth is certainly pretty good for us. I'm quite happy with that, to be quite frank. I don't know if Moriera pushing is actually making the slightest bit of effing difference. Although his tyres are starting to go again. He's got 24 laps before he pits again. We're going to have to monitor that situation because I'm guessing he's going to be 3-stopping. Johnny Fellows moves up to 4th thanks to a pit stop, I believe. Who's in the box right now? Trulli. Okay, so getting back onto the right data. Shinji Nakano now leads because he's yet to stop. David Coulthard second, Mika Hakkinen third, Jarno Trulli fourth, but not because that's from the crossing of the line last time. Now, is Morera closing the gap? That's the next question. Let's take a look at his general lap times first of all. Yeah, still pretty consistent, and consistently coming down, which is encouraging. The gap now to Esteban Tuero is 9 seconds, and he's 43 seconds clear of the Stewart. That's pretty stellar. I can't really complain at that. Pushing has obviously taken some life out of his tyres, but by Christ, he's getting results, and that's all we need him to do. You guys grab yourself a drink. I'm going to grab myself a drink, and we will pick up in a few laps' time when there's something to talk about. In a minute. Okay, you rejoin us on lap 35 of 72. No major changes so far, except that you'll see Sergio Morera has been pushing for the last few laps. He has now lapped every car behind him in the running order. So he's on the same lap as the cars in front, but everyone behind him he has lapped. And he's been slowly eating into Esteban Tuero's lead, although his lap times have started to go up again because his tyres are worn out. I have moved him. He's got the gap down to Esteban Tuero from 6.8 seconds to 4.5. He's going to pit in 3 laps' time. I've moved him to a 3-stop strategy. The same for John Fellows because he's moving backwards now into the clutches of Jean Alesi. It seems our car is reasonably fast on race pace, more so than I expected, but it chews through its tyres, which means we have some work on the suspension to do. What you'll see is Morera's engine and car are also getting pretty worn through, but track temperature has gone up. The track is still dry, 31 degrees. Everything is all shiny and nice, but the second stops are starting to happen now, and it seems that Alesi is also 3-stopping, so he's undercut us now. As has Irvine, he's also just stopped. I don't know if we stand to gain out of this, actually. We have to stop, but maybe we should have stopped sooner with Fellows. To be honest, it was kind of hard to read how quickly his tyre wear was going down, but fast enough for it to prove problematic at least. Morera will be pitting in 2 laps' time, so I will catch up with you once there's more to talk about. See you soon. Bye-bye. So, lap 38 of 72, Morera's just come into the pits now. His tyres were almost worn down to the belt, but he got his gap to Tuero down to about 3.5 seconds. That means when the next round of pit stops comes around for the Sauers, it might be that if we can keep Morera in a good place, he might actually end up gaining from these pit stops, although he's about to be lapped, which means a lot of blue flag action to slow him down. See you in a moment. Okay, so I took the call to just tell him to pull over to the side of the road, basically, and let the lapping cars behind him go, because the game is really quite strict with giving out blue flag penalties, and the last thing we need is for him to get another penalty. I mean, if he hadn't have got that 10-second stop-go penalty, he would now be ahead of both Saubers and running 11th, which, while not exactly stellar, is certainly better than we are now. Nowhere near where he deserves to be, but that's his own fault for making a false start. Fellows continues to plod along in 3rd. He'll be pitting in 5 laps' time. I've moved him onto a 3-stop strategy as well. He's going to go onto a set of scrubbed soft tyres on his final stint, 10 laps before the finish. Around the same time, Morera will be coming in, and that should give them the fresh rubber they need to keep pushing through till the end. It might cost us a podium position, but at the same time, I'd rather not risk the tyres going on the last few laps. This is a spotter race for us. We're not really aiming to achieve a lot. We're just aiming to learn about the car, learn about the drivers in the car under race conditions, and so we really do need to make sure that we stay on top of things and that stuff's cool. That we don't push too hard and cost ourselves what little points we might be able to earn. And then we can come into the next round a bit better equipped, really, to sort of figure out where we are in the running and how to get the best out of the car and drivers. Morera's pushing again. I'm going to tell him to ease off now, actually, because I'm worried about the condition of his car, which has been on a downward slide. Fellows really needs to come in as well. Yeah, both cars are about 50% worn Although you see that Moriero's been pushing and his engine is way more worn than Fellows' is, so not a lot of mechanical sympathy from Moriero's driving style, but he is so consistent and so capable. I mean, he drove those tyres down to the very, very end of their life without losing the back end, without losing it in a corner, without crashing. And for a rookie, that's been really impressive. He's kept his head. He's kept us in the game. He's not going to get any points this round, but if he drives like this in future without making that failed start, I don't see why he can't be consistently challenging Fellows and the rest of the boys at the sharp end of the grid. Fellows, again, can't really be too disappointed with him, really. I mean, I know he started on pole, but it was obvious from the start the car and driver didn't really have the legs at this stage in the game to be able to put in a dominant win. And I'd be happy with a top 6 position. A top 3 would be great, but I think our pit strategy probably rules that out, to be quite honest. Let us see. So, finally, something has happened. It has begun to rain. We're on lap 52 of 72. That means I am going to immediately react and begin considering what to do next. I'm going to say end of lap 55. We're going to bring him in for... Yeah, it gives it 3 laps to get wet, really, and we're going to bring him in for intermediate tyres. Currently, Fellows is 5th, Moriero is 10th. Moriero's been doing phenomenally. Fellows is behind simply because he has been subject to that extra pit stop that we weren't planning on having. End of lap 56, he can come in for some intermediate tyres as well. There's been an accident. Who was that? Nobody, apparently. What kind of weather are we talking about? Yeah, light rain, so I made the right choice there, not putting them onto full wets. Now, I know what you're thinking. Have I maybe jumped a bit too soon? Well, there's not a lot of the race left. We're going to have to stop at some point. For me, I think it's a make or break moment, and I'm going to go so far as to say that particularly Fellows' car is on the verge of giving up. I don't want him to work it harder than needs be. Moriero's tyres are already pretty well shot. I'm going to say that roll the dice, bring them in, and get them on the intermediate tyres slightly ahead of schedule. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's going to rain through to the end of the race anyway. Might as well take the gamble. We could end up losing. It could be that actually the rain doesn't settle in and the track stays relatively dry, but doesn't look like it. Yeah, I'm going to bring him in now. I'm going to bring both of them in now. Or end of next lap. Yep, they're both on their in lap now, which means hopefully Fellows comes in now. Yes, he does. Excellent. We're switching early. I appreciate that we're switching early, but I think it's definitely the right call to make. Hopefully it pays off for us. I'm going to tell Moriero to ease off. I don't care if that puts him back with the Minardis or whatever. I just don't want him spinning off on his way into the garage now. Let's see if Lacey comes in. No, he goes round again. Okay, so we switched both cars over to the intermediate tyre. I'm quite happy with that as a decision, to be quite frank with you. I don't know... Oh, one of the Williams is out. Who was that? Mika Hakkinen, hydraulic failure, and Damon Hill to hydraulic failure as well. That was the other yellow flag. Unlucky, boys. Unlucky. I don't think this is going to necessarily get us the win, although Fellows has come out in 7th. If everyone 6th now, if everyone has to stop in front of him to switch tyres, which in theory they should, there's no reason why we shouldn't do alright. He's already on the back of I'm going to get him to push. He's got plenty of fuel on board. Why the hell not? He's on the right tyres for the condition. Push, 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 baby. Get it done. Nice. Oh, I was looking at the wrong car, but never mind. We're going to get them both to push now, because why not? Moriera's in a bit more of a difficult position, to be quite frank, because his car is much closer to giving up. His engine's not in great condition. Oh, great. We've had a front wing failure. We had a front wing failure on Fellows' car. I'm going to bring him in. Get that fixed. Hopefully he doesn't cause any more trouble. If you leave him out with... Yeah, he's out of the race. If they break the wing too early, they will just be out of the race. That's just how it is. That means Moriera is our final runner. I feel bad for Fellows, to be honest. He was on the right tyres. He just sort of clipped his front on the back of one of the Benettons there, and it knocked out his front wing. And he wasn't experienced enough, particularly in bad conditions, to keep the car on the track, even though he eased off. And so he was out. Very, very unfortunate, but Moriera's up to 8th. He's just outside the points. I think a points finish is totally possible for him, provided the car holds out. Let's take a look at his situation. I mean, the car is on the verge of giving out, to be quite frank, but if he can make it last through, I see no reason at all why he couldn't pick up a stray point. He's already up to 7th. I think more and more cars will be coming in at this point. I think he's got enough fuel to last him through to the end of the race. Yeah, more than enough. I'm going to leave him pushing, and we'll see if we can't squeeze a point. I mean, he's coming up now on John Alesi. I think Alesi is still on the dry weather tyre. If he gets a point out of this, I think we can consider that a victory for us, to be quite frank. He's 3.4 seconds behind Alesi, but I'm pretty sure Alesi's on the wrong tyres. Moriera is pushing. There's a chance the car might give out sometime around lap 70, but we can't pull our punches at this point now. You remember last year and this year actually, where Williams have come in for criticism for not being aggressive enough and not capitalising on the car when their performance opportunities were there. We are not going to make the same mistake. We are going to have Moriera push like a bastard and get him past John Alesi. Alesi's pulled out a further 2 seconds, so he must have stopped actually. But there's nothing to say that we can't gain ourselves a point. Who's that who's just pulled over to the side of the road? Come on. It looked like one of the Saubers. Not announcing it just yet, but someone is definitely out of the race. It's no one ahead of us, unfortunately, which would have made the point situation a moot point. Come on, who was it? It could have been one of Minardi's, actually. Oh no, both Minardis were already out, so not many runners remained, to be quite honest. Come on, game, come on, who was it? Somebody just went out after Johnny Fellows. David Coulthard's lap has been incredible, and his gap to Shinji Nakano is so vast as to be redonkulous, I believe is the parlance. Yeah, I don't think we've got the legs actually in Moriera to beat Alesi now. So we just got to hope that there's another pit stop to happen for one of those guys. I will join you again shortly. Not long to run now, 13 laps. See you soon. Oh, guys, heartbreak. So Moriera just pounced on 2 cars coming out of the pits, got himself up to 4th. He's now down to 5th again. But still, 4th from 7th was pretty good, but he's developed a brake problem. I don't know. Do I bring him in? He's got 12 laps to run. I accidentally cut myself off there. Yeah, I'm bringing him in. I'm bringing him in because 12 laps to run in these conditions without brakes is a real problem. That's heartbreaking. He got up to 4th on merit by being on the right tyres at the right time, being consistent. After everything he's been through as well, it's a real bummer. But he has to have these brakes checked. I'd rather him finish 8th at this point and just take a moral point, if nothing else. Sorry, my phone is incredibly loud, apparently. Let's see what happens in the garage. He's in the box now. Out he goes. Apparently all's good. Or at least they're willing to send him out again. No, he's still got a brake problem. Fine, we're just gonna let him run through now. He's gonna finish 8th. I don't see him getting in front of anybody now. Everybody has stopped. But I'd rather have taken that risk, I suppose, because if he gets injured, then that kind of messes up the whole driver development angle for most of the season. It does give us a chance to look at what you can do with your test driver in such conditions. 11 laps to run. I don't see any change happening at this point, but if anything interesting does arise, I will let you know. Well guys, as we pretty much suspected, Morriera stayed 8th. He did manage to nurse the car home with some fairly severe brake problems. The weather didn't let up either. Not many finishers either, 11, so 50% of the field were lost there. David Coulthard took the win, a pretty commanding win all things considered. Basically a minute down the road from Jean Alesi's Ferrari. His car came alive actually after his pit stop, and he got some multiple overtakes that were very impressive, but I was too slow to capture them. Johnny Newhouse finishes 3rd, rounding off the podium for Benetton, and the points paying positions go to Eddie Irvine, Johnny Herbert's Ferrari, and Pedro Diniz's Sauber. Great drive from him. We should have finished in front of him and Frentzen, but for various technical reasons we did not. However, can't be too unhappy. Morriera did bring the car home. I think it's pretty much shafted and will require a lot of spare parts to get working again. And I feel sorry for Fellows, really. He had an amazing drive, but unfortunately it was not to be. Guys, thank you so much for joining me. I'll see you tomorrow, where we'll be doing all the sponsory type stuff and preparing ourselves for qualifying. You guys take care.